Hi there. It's great to connect with you. My name is Karla Rodriguez, and I'm excited to discuss the fascinating topic of cultural blueprints of user centric platforms. The value that a developer creates for you is inextricably linked to the value you create for the developer. So, how can we help developers succeed and achieve their goals and aspirations? It's all about creating a culture that fosters a dynamic developer experience. One way is by adopting user centric principles and visual blueprints that take into account platform artifacts and their contributors. By understanding the needs of both users, such as developers and platform orchestrators, we can create more effective and resilient systems. Adopting user centric principles can revolutionize the approach of developing and managing platform environments. This isn't just about improving our systems, it's about transforming our engineering mindset to focus more profoundly on the people using the platform. So, first, let's discuss alignment. In platforms, we often focus very heavily on the technology itself, its configurations, deployments, and management. But what if we started with the end in mind? What are the actual needs of the users, both developers and platform orchestrators? To do this, we need to develop clear personas or user profiles. Who are the developers using our platform? What are their attributes? What are their daily tasks? What challenges are they facing? We can better tailor our environment to suit their needs, reduce friction, and increase productivity by answering these questions. Next is the power of feedback. We need to build mechanisms into our systems that allow us to capture feedback and encourage it. Feedback is a gold mine for continuous improvement, whether through automated tooling that reports issues back to us or more traditional forms like surveys and user testing sessions. With feedback in hand, we adopt an iterative approach. Based on the feedback you receive, you can build incrementally and frequently. Now, imagine a blueprint, very distinct from the rigid lines of a technology architecture diagram. This blueprint really breathes life into the user journey. It highlights the golden paths, the interactions, the support systems, and the emotional landscape. It's a map that guides us through the complex ecosystem of processes, business models, and cultural norms. Our journey begins with a candid reflection on the current state, and we'll gather all our stakeholders to visualize today's as is state. Then, with a shared vision, we'll map out a new state, the realm of desired behaviors, cultural enrichment, and a thriving developer ecosystem. So, there are four primary areas to our blueprint to map out. They include the journey phases, who the developers visibly interact with and how, and what are they using, who else supports them, how and when, and what are the critical emotional values at each stage. First, we want to understand the as is state. So, you want to gather your feedback and work with all the stakeholders to understand the end to end process as it currently exists. We'll talk to these items when we're creating the blueprint together. And then we're going to reflect on the context of the business and the developer outcomes in journey stages to help understand if these are driving the culture of the platform experience. So, for example, if conversion is a crucial driver for your deployments, turn your funnel on its side and use it to create journey stages. Other journeys that might be of importance to you might be release milestones or the software development lifecycle itself. Touchpoints are also artifacts that we want to identify when the developer is taking certain actions through the journey. We want to identify the artifacts that have functional needs, how those are being met, or if they're not, there might be interactions that are part of the organization as it's trying to meet goals through these artifacts. Do the developers get the support they need? And how does this connect to the developers' actions? When building this blueprint, look for these questions. Let's answer: who is collaborating with developers? What do they need to support the developers, the platform orchestrators, the DevSecOps people? And how do they work together as part of this blueprint? Remember to increase multiple perspectives because a diverse set of people use the platform. There is not just one set of defined developer prototypes or artifacts that they need. They have different ways that they work, different ways that we want to test with how they're exploring the system. We want to also understand their perspectives. This will all lead to a more robust solution. We want to also capture the emotional state. And this is where we're bringing in our user research on the developer's thoughts and feelings. Now, all of this is a creation of pain points that is really defining what the developer's platform experience is currently looking like. Now, we want to then switch to creating an end state, a desired state. And Slash Data's research has shown that developer happiness and productivity have identified internal processes as and bureaucracy as the most significant obstacles to developers' effective job performance. So mapping a desired state with an optimized workflow is really crucial to develop that thriving culture that we want. Here's some good questions to think about when doing this new map. What behaviors are desired after we understood the opportunities from the as is state? How might we create a culture for developers to thrive? Do the developers have what they need to know to do the behavior that we are thinking about? These are good behavioral science questions to kind of bring into your thinking process. We want to understand where that behavior happens. Want to understand, was the platform designed for that? What's the timing of that behavior? Are there opportunities around the resources, around the location on the map? What are the cues that they're hearing and sensing? And maybe even is there physical affordances that are impacting this behavior? So let's look at an example of ways that there were developer interactions happening on a platform that was built to develop Kubernetes services. This as is state map shows 5 frequent developer pain points with the development of Kubernetes systems. Now, one of the things that they frequently were saying was that there were definitely many opportunities to use Kubernetes, but the configuration and the interactions really needed to be simplified. The number of services and environments had grown exponentially, increasing the complexity and frequency of deployments, as well as the repetitive amount of boilerplate code that was required for configurations, increased the risk of errors in management overhead. Ensuring that all the services were up to date with the latest best practices and security patches was a struggle. And it took significant effort to adapt and evolve the legacy systems to work with Kubernetes effectively. And that really made it more complicated with so much development cycles that were exponentially growing. So, with all of that, it was definitely a challenge. Now, consider what behaviors, motivations, or opportunities can be addressed in the desired state blueprint. Here's some questions to consider. How can we support more of these positive behaviors that we're observing? Or how can we switch to motivate developers instead of putting more training or capabilities or requirements? Let's get rid of something tedious at this touch point. Here are some ways that these opportunities were met by focusing on capabilities and motivations at distinct places in the blueprint. To tackle the complexity of Kubernetes configurations, instead of motivating the developers or training them on a new capability, the team instead abstracted and automated the generation of Kubernetes files at the right deployment time. They also increased the developers' capability by leveling them up with Git to generate the services necessary in one place. This simplification took advantage of timing as an opportunity. They built a Kubernetes versioning strategy, and that motivated everybody to keep security mindedness. Configurations were systematically rolled out, so new security updates that were manageable with better timing. Automated reconfiguration of the refactoring motivated the developers to minimize manual effort, and it reduced the risk of outdated configurations. So, this configuration refactoring actually removed the touch point on the platform. And this goes back to building iteratively. You're following user centered principles. You're rolling out small incremental changes that makes it manageable. Of course, it's easier to test and roll back if necessary, but it's also allowing to create a learning culture because it minimizes the risks and maximizes the ability to adapt rapidly. Finally, they also did an opinionated tooling to make everyday tasks easier and reduce repetitive command usage. So, developers all gained new capabilities and it enhanced the developer experience as well as streamlining Kubernetes interactions. The cloud and platforms are all transforming conditions for tech teams, but operating with a user centric mindset can yield collaborative outcomes. It can create a culture that guides focused on the developers and their needs in mind to enhance on productivity and efficiency, which can always benefit continuous platform improvements. So finally, we want to also think about the end user outcomes. They should always be focused on every feature and line of code deployed really improves the user's outcomes through enhanced performance and better security or even simpler interfaces. Let's strive to meet technical conditions and exceed developer expectations. In conclusion, blueprints really illustrate how complex processes can make a greater platform experience just by mapping them out, understanding the underlying business model, what that looks like at specific touch points, and in the perspective of each user. Taking user centric principles to understand the domain ecosystem would only lead to better outcomes. And here's a question to help you jumpstart your platform development team's conversations. How can we, to ensure the broadest possible developer community experience this platform to the fullest? I hope that this has been helpful, and I would love to keep in touch. Please reach out if you have any questions or are interested in the template. Thank you.